Good morning, everyone. You wouldn't believe it, but I think I actually got some sleep last night. Like I was mentioning earlier, my complex psychiatric condition is not just neurological, it's psychological as well, or emotional. And, there's more than one way to skin a cat, so they say. And I figured out that there might be some hope for help without criminal activity, without sitting on the side of the road begging people for food, and or just simply starving, which is just not going to work, folks. My medical situation is so severe that is just not going to work. End of story. So I have been in the mindset that when all else fails, your faith, your spirituality can get you through, and it worked. I was finishing up that Jordan Peterson video. Like I said, it was 2.5 hours long. It just taken me several days to go through it because it's so awesome and so packed full of wisdom and knowledge and all of that power associated with that. He was talking about Cain and Abel. Wow, what a subject. 15 seconds worth of reading in the Bible takes 2.5 hours. It took me 2.5 days to go through. Absolutely amazing. But he had mentioned something. He said, and something that I do have a little trouble with from time to time, and he was talking about the difference between good and evil, and one of those things that separate the good from the evil is the willingness to sacrifice. And when you sacrifice, you're humble. You have humility. That's where your prayer comes from. That's where you give thanks that things aren't worse than they are. And that pow hit me like a ton of bricks. That's exactly what I am. I just has suppressed it because of the intensity of lack of medication and starvation and the looming starvation. But then I realized, time out. Stop. It's time to practice what I preach, so to speak. So I went ahead and I just chilled out and just heart to heart, in the most humble of ways, thank God that things weren't worse than they were, and thanked Him again for everything that I do have, especially my parents. And I went ahead and just said, well, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and just screw it. Do a reverse this time, since I've actually, haven't, whether intentional or not, been obsessing with my medical condition and been more obsessed with treating the symptoms which at this point, again, is the looming starvation, and in a few, actually more like a couple days, if not even now, a day. Yeah, it's, like I said, it's coming on quick, because my hunger is insatiable, especially as this worry and panic develops into reality. It's taking more and more electrical energy to keep my brain functioning well, and it's just taking more and more food to provide that energy. It's science, it's biology when you've got a severe hyperactivity disorder. So I said, well, shoot, let's just turn on the attention deficit and just feed into the hyperactivity. Let's stop compulsing and go ahead and just let the obsession flow. And then I was like, time out. I'm actually doing the same thing but in reverse, but doing the same thing in the forward as well. Talk about a complex. I love myself for this. I'm actually doing a compulsion about my current obsession by allowing myself to obsess about another situation without compulsion, which is the actual biology behind it. So I started saying, all right, first thing, let's fact check, double check, make sure I'm not wrong, or that I'm still based in reality, in all of these things that you need to do when everybody calls you crazy, when it's just underlying psychiatric subconscious conditioning that again goes misdiagnosed and unmedicated. It is what it is. So I don't remember exactly how I started my search, but basically I was like how did I start the search? Because this was really good. Let me see if I can bring up my search history on the web browser real quick, just to see what I had searched for last night. Let's see. Oh, it only keeps a few of these. Okay, well, basically, it boiled down to double checking and making sure that indeed okay, it ended up, after all said and done, ended up boiling down to the search of what's the difference between bipolar and schizophrenic, because everything in reality that is mine says I'm just hardcore bipolar 1. Not schizophrenic, not really in the slightest. The only thing that might be questionable about being schizophrenic would be my faith in God, my spirituality. But then again, I realized, no, that can't be true. You can't be schizophrenic just for believing in God, because I still can accept the fact that God may not exist and I could be wrong, but I have just made a conscious choice to continue to believe in something, in a faith I had accepted as a child, because it is better to believe than and to be wrong than to not believe and be right. I remember being told that in that Christian schooling as a child, and that was one of the most powerful things I was ever told. And maybe I had even learned that. No, I learned that from my parents, and then it was reinforced in that Christian education. That's where this is, why this is so powerful and meaning, and why this has stuck with me my entire life. So I said, all right, well, every time I go to the hospital, acting and talking, believe it or not, even more calm toned, but just as rational and conversationally intelligent, wisdom, full of wisdom and full of real book smarts. They're obsessed with hitting me with psychotropics. And then when I ended up in the mental hospital, they kept chasing me around with these long hypodermics and these big bullies and pounding me down to the floor, even though I'm running for my life. And I mean that when I say that now, especially after researching exactly what was in that cocktail they continued to force inject on me violently against my will, knowledge, spirituality, and everything else. So I'm just double checking to make sure I'm not really crazy, because I'm refusing this cocktail or any psychotropics. So I just want to make sure, indeed, I'm not psycho, I'm not schizophrenic. Hell, I'm not even, I'm probably not, in fact, I'm not even borderline. I went boop, right just back to bipolar, where I belong. You hear what I just said? Where I belong. I belong in bipolar 1 land, because it's exactly what's expected for what has happened and continues to happen, and what I see happening to me. And after all my research, I was perfectly right, because I am based in reality, especially so hardcore. And it is just a severe mood disorder. Indeed, I am bipolar, not schizophrenic or psychotic. In fact, again, that disassociate is actually an ability of mine to use in almost a third-party sense in a complex, without taking it personally, to be able to cope with a severe emotional disorder that remains that has been and remains unmedicated. Wow. So I looked up hyperparadol, Ativan Benadryl cocktail. The Ativan winning. Benadryl, stupid. The stupidest stuff in the world for me. But the Haldol. Okay. So, what does Haldol do to a normal person? How does, haloperidol mechanism of action, folks? I'm over here again, going back into hardcore, like college, like in fact, not even not even first tier college, like second tier towards getting your degree in neurology and even psychiatry knowledge here. And I'm just reading it and absorbing it, even though I'm getting a few new terms and words because of my basic knowledge of neurology, so thorough and thick that these new terms and phrases are already just providing a clearer picture of regions of the brains, receptors, transmitters, reuptake inhibitors, and all of these things. And it's becoming clear Haldol is actually the worst thing in the world they could be giving me, given my real, true to life condition, my complex psychiatric disorder. So then I went ahead and I said, okay, Well, they do use it for psychotic people, for a lot for schizophrenia, which I don't have. Is there any other reason why they would give it to someone who is not under who doesn't do drugs, who isn't high, who is just literally, this is who he is biologically and psychologically, again, due to just the way the world has created his environment and the way he has adapted to it. So I looked at the word belligerent because that is the only other valid reason to ever use that medication. Willingness to wage war and fight and all these other things. And I did some real hardcore memory searching about my recent adventures into the emergency room and ultimately the mental hospital a few times. No, I am indeed not belligerent. I had gone in there calm, prepared, collected, ready to just say, hey, look, these are my symptoms. Treat them this way or get me a psychiatrist who, can provide me different or better or more meaningful diagnosis and treatment options. And they tell me we don't have a psychiatrist. I didn't believe them at first, but I'll explain why they were actually right, which is frightening, terrifying now, and this has to change. Even if I, at this point, on my way to becoming a special needs dad, have to actually get a college degree in psychiatry and go down to the Crestview Hospital and get a job, or like I said, just win these lawsuits and buy the hospital and become the boss and say, look, this hospital will not operate an emergency room without a psychiatrist on staff and the availability in an emergency situation such as this to be called, on 24/7, or at least have the policy of the hospital to hold on to that patient in a trauma-focused clinical approach until that psychiatrist, who has to have his humanities in order as well as a term of employment, gets there to make any medication decisions that aren't just being validated and accepted by the staff from the patient. I'm winning because I've just come up with all these moments before I'm doing this and speaking them. Wow. Talk about the inventiveness. And this is all because of my open mind, my humility, my thankfulness that it is not worse than it already is, and my desire to continue improving my situation as well as my family situation, as well as my community situation, as well as society situation, as well as the situation on this planet. All in the name of God as well. Amen to that, right? So, I started looking up and said, okay, Parkinson's disease keeps getting mentioned with not using haloperidol. Haldol. Nope. Look that up. Nope. I'm next to no chance of that Parkinson's. So, I continued searching the side effects, because again, what does Haldol do to a normal person? Because I'm not psychotic, I'm bipolar, and that makes me normal. See what I'm saying? Even though they call me crazy nonstop, apparently, and then force the injections on me like I am. Ugh, Man, sorry. That stuff makes me sick. So, again, I went ahead and at that point, that's when I went ahead and double checked. What's the difference between bipolar and schizophrenic? Because it's not Parkinson's. So the only other reason would be belligerence. I already checked that. Not belligerent. Not at all. I want to get along. I want all of this to work. I just do not. Or Jordan Peterson brought this up too shortly after, validating everything that I believe. Sometimes there is a utility in the ability to say no and to not accept anything else except that no. To not give up a core belief no matter what. And to be willing to die for it and become a martyr. Woo! Wow! Oh, if I can get this and Jordan Peterson gets it and re-educates me on something I've already learned, why are these doctors doing this over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and every fucking time I try to get help? Because they're not in touch with their humanities, for one. Two, they don't even comprehend the complexity of psychiatry, let alone have put any work into the field, let alone have any right, ability, or anything to be making any psychiatric decisions. But they are the ones with the mental illness. They are the ones with the narcissism, which, again, as far as everything I've been studying and researching, categorizing indicates, is in the class of at least disassociate. And not in the way I'm disassociate as a premeditated acceptance of reality and being, again, premeditatedly used as a coping mechanism and as a utility for survival. I guess that's what coping mechanism really is. Wow, look at me. Right off the top of my head, just coming up with this stuff. Man, I'm amazing. Oh, I deserve wear the hat the cool way right now, because I am just so awesome and cool right now. So man, so I'm like, wow. So I list all the side effects of the Haldol and all the reasons why you shouldn't use it. And as this list grows and grows and grows and grows from my research, fact checking, wow, what the hell? Almost everything that I explain to them and really go through are the most important reasons not to ever give someone like me haloperidol. Haldol. Woo, so of course, boom, make a document on that, and I'll save that. Document, and at this point I'm just text documenting everything as I go along, both for double checking and also for evidence on my medical malpractice lawsuits. Yeah. That's my next big step. I'm already a victim or witness in a case and going to court in the middle of June. And I just got an email from the attorney I contacted yesterday wanting some more information. I just got another form yesterday from something involved with this, wanting the specifics, and I went ahead and just basically wrote my history. It's real good. I'll make another video of that and read it, because I did real good. I'm doing really good on these. Like I said, striving for professionalism, and I'm getting really good at this. So I gave you the history, and then said, but give me a few days, especially with this other situation that's more important, which is being well fed and not running out of food basically tomorrow. Or maybe, yeah, well, look, to be honest with you, I'm down to 1 can of beans, ramen noodles, a big box of premium macaroni and cheese, and a can of spaghetti and meatballs, a couple of those frozen breakfast burritos that I just do not like them at all, but I'll force eat them when I have to. And that's it. And I'll have all of that consumed except maybe my last box of ramen noodles by tomorrow, and then I'll be down to one, big 12 pack of 3.5 ounce ramen noodles. And because that's actually not providing me any of the actual energy that I need, and it's just feeding the calorie carbohydrate craving of my hyperactive thalamus, that's again consciously regulated so well, I'm just gonna pass it all out into the toilet, because I've noticed that digestive system functioning depending on my diet. My body is an amazingly flexible machine, and so is my mind, folks. Really, it is. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even been able to be this creative and inventive, spur of the moment like this. And again, I'm doing this in real, R-E-A-L, real, R-E-E-L time. I didn't rehearse this. I didn't practice this. I just decided, click record and let's make this right now. So, then I went ahead and double checked one more time to make sure that I am just not narcissistic. I'm not crazy. I'm not hallucinating. I'm in reality. I took a long time researching this next to last feature. Can a self-educated person understand psychiatry? Apparently, I am what is referred to in the dictionary as an autodictate, or dictate, or something like that. I think it's autodictate. I'm an autodictate. Okay? What does that mean? Well, if you didn't already figure it out from what I just explained, look it up. So, I'm like, okay, the ability to self-teach does exist. That's one of the huge advantages of my homeschooling, or the homeschool education, because I'll be honest, I didn't spend all day at home every day alone or with my siblings learning. Not at all. I barely did any of my schoolwork at all. I just read the material, understood it, or reread until I did understand, or do some research on the subjects until I understood what it was and moved on. But I barely did any of the actual handwriting work, because that was just stupid. My mental memory in my mind is so near photographic. It's amazing. Why do you think I don't next to ever walk around with a camera in the hospital and all these other things? And it's a good thing too, because boy, I'd be in some real trouble if I had some memory issues, some real hardcore memory issues, or wasn't based on reality, or preoccupied with fantasy, or just I see, and I can only imagine what that's like because it just doesn't exist for me. For in that way, just so yeah, auto dictate tote. I'm like, wow. So indeed, all right. But what about psychiatry? But time out. Before even that, one of the first things that was mentioned in the encyclopedic breakdown of auto dictate. There is nothing you can't learn if you put your mind to it, including psychiatry. So I double checked. Sure enough, indeed, there are a lot of self-taught people that are good at psychiatry. In fact, most of those excuse me. Most of those, God bless me? Nah, he's already blessed me. But indeed, those people seem to be more in touch with their humanities. And that is a huge bipolar split in the medical community. Some of the medical communities, mostly doctors, go figure, doctors, and you have to have a degree to be a doctor. I found that out. I can't call myself a doctor, and I can't let anybody call myself a doctor. They can hire me like a doctor, pay me like a doctor, I can act like a doctor, but I'm not a doctor because I don't have a degree. That is reality, and I was, forced into understanding that thoroughly with my research last night. So I said, but they said that a lot of them do that, and it seems more like a mental illness than reality to go at being a doctor without being in touch with your humanities. But there's a hardcore group that support it, and a hardcore group that supports the exact opposite. You really don't deserve a degree and to be called a doctor unless you remain in touch with your humanities. Choose you this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Talking about, having faith in God. And saying no to ever giving that up. And being willing to die for it. Amen. Man, isn't it just all coming together so awesomely? And this is going to be a long video, but it's so worth it because it took a long video to really get me into this state of mind. And again, a lot of this is inventiveness was because I just stopped and just, God, thank you that things aren't worse than they already are. Thank you that I have believed this and will continue to believe this, God. And nobody has told me to do this. This is something that I've figured out on my own. Thank you for everything that I have, especially my parents and my family and friends. Thank you for my life. Thank you for my general well-being. Thank you for my country. Thank you for my planet, or the planet that I live on, and that you created it all. Of course, forgive me of my sins, God. Please continue to... I didn't use the word guide or lead. I used the word though that fit appropriately for the moment. Basically, thank you for allowing me to make my own decisions. Always understanding your presence. Forget it. The actual word. Anyway. All because of that, I'm over here. Now I'm over here learning or double checking and relearning that indeed a person can learn psychiatry on their own, and they're usually better off for it if they do that first and then get the degree. Winning? For real. For real. And so, after all of this double checking and fact acceptance, I said to myself, time to find a local psychiatrist, because I need to have a talk with them. Typed in, local psychiatrist. Enter. There are no psychiatrists in or near Crestview, Florida. So the hospital was right about not having a psychiatrist on staff. That has to change, people. And if I can do anything about it, it will change. Not today, not tomorrow, but it will change, even if I have to be a martyr for it. That's just my new goal in life to achieve before worrying about being a special needs dad. Because that's really my long-term goal, but I want to get all this straightened out, both on their end and my end, before I even worry about it. And I've got plenty of time too, because I need to get a girlfriend, you know, get married, get a house, and then I can take the step into becoming a foster parent. Until those are done, that's just planning and a want and a desire. It's not reality yet. But I did find some telepsychiatrists, which is going to help me get that medication, because there's a list of them. I went ahead and picked what I could see as the closest one, and the one with the most mature, passionate, friendly aura to their website and photograph. And I went ahead and sent them an email last night saying, look, here's my condition, and as a subject, I'm just looking, for legal access to medications, subscriptions. And at the very bottom, I had put, look, all the work's been done and verifiable. It's just down to 1 or 2 pills once or twice a day. Send. I'm waiting for a response from that. If that doesn't work, I'll try another psychiatrist. And I'll just keep on trying until I get what I want, until I win these lawsuits and I can just afford to force the system to change for the better. Because money is power after everything else. Money is not power if you don't have the ability to regulate that power, self-regulate that power. So, that's where I'm going. I went ahead and went to bed before I became exhausted again and started narcoleptic featuring, and it was just yawning. And I actually think I got some good sleep. I didn't do this whole no caffeine for 6 hours, try to release all my thoughts and relax for an hour, no screen time so that the blue lights aren't affecting. No, I did the exact opposite. I did everything I wanted to and came to a completed state, and then just went straight to bed. Didn't put the heavy blanket on so I sweat to death. Just put the light blanket on with the air conditioner running and blowing on me. And look how much better I'm doing today for it. Now if I could just get those pesky medications.